Jason McNew of Appalachian Technologies here, and this is Security Snark, where we discuss all the cybersecurity news that's worth discussing. Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Security Snark. This week we're going to talk about security flaws in hotel-provided Wi-Fi. Facebook is being used by cyber spy firms to snoop on people and organizations. We're going to talk about a do-it-yourself kill cord that you can make to wipe your laptop instantly if it's stolen. And lastly, a mass spyware campaign is targeting thousands of ICS, that's Industrial Control System computers, around the world. And first up this week comes this piece from TechCrunch. A security researcher says an internet gateway used by hundreds of hotels to offer and manage their guest Wi-Fi networks has vulnerabilities that could put the personal information of their guests at risk. This isn't a surprise. The name of the vendor that they're pointing to here is called AirAngel, and it says that they found about 600 of these gateways across Russia, the Middle East, Germany, the UK. And I know that there's different vendors that sell these systems to hotels, and this is the system that when you go to stay somewhere, whatever hotel, they offer free Wi-Fi. It's not free, it's included with your hotel stay. And I've read about this before, and from what I understand, there's various intelligence agencies across the world. People that are influential and have a lot of money and are plugged in or doing whatever, they do travel, right? And they travel internationally. They tend to stay at high-end hotels. And this has been one way to target these people for industrial espionage, whether it's financial or whatever. I've seen reports like this before. So when you're traveling, especially if you're some type of a high-value asset, and most of us aren't, but you still don't want your personal information being stolen, you don't want to be on some list, you don't want them tracking where you're traveling and that kind of thing. But the point here is when you're traveling and are using Wi-Fi, or you're in an airport or you're a coffee shop or whatever, is to use what we call OPSEC in the military, or operational security. And this is a matter of having good habits to obfuscate mundane details of your daily activities, because these things can be aggregated to learn more about you. So number one, you have all of these kind of cyber hygiene things that you need to be doing on your laptop, keeping it patched, having endpoint protection, those kinds of things. But beyond that, don't trust any network. It doesn't matter whether you're in a hotel, you're in a coffee shop, you're in an airport, you're at a friend's house. Just assume that it's malicious and then act accordingly. And this means having a third-party VPN service. Then there's a bunch of VPN service providers. I don't need to say which, to recommend any specific one. But remember, when you're traveling, you may be caught in some kind of a honeypot. You may be a target. These things are vulnerable. I've seen this before. I expect this to be an ongoing problem. So OPSEC when traveling. Always keep your stuff patched. Don't install things on it you don't need, and use VPN. Very, very important. And next up comes this piece from the Register.com. Facebook locks out 1,500 fake accounts used by cyber spy firms to snoop on people, alerts 50,000 potential targets. And the article here is interesting because it name drops the names of these organizations. And it says the bogus accounts were said to be operated by Cobweb Technologies, 200 accounts, Cogonite, I think that's how you pronounce that, 100, Black Cube, 300 accounts, WHCA, which is probably counterintelligence, 100, Beltrox, 400, Cytrox, 300, and then an unknown entity in China of 100 accounts. Now, this is not exactly a surprise. Social media is used for various forms of information warfare, whether it's between states or it's between private industry or terrorist groups or whatever. There's all kinds of weird stuff that goes on in Facebook. And to be perfectly honest, I do use, personally, Facebook and then other social media platforms, but, with caution, of course. And in the first piece, I was talking about OPSEC again, which is operational security. And it's important to make sure that you know who you're talking to and then who you're dealing with. And I recommend keeping your circle of friends on that small: family, friends, coworkers, people that you know. And then don't accept connections from people that you don't know. Keep it limited. Clean your list from time to time. and then purge people that are no longer talking to, disused accounts, that sort of stuff. Taking a minimalistic approach to Facebook and other social media is best. It's fine if you use it to talk to family and friends. Yeah, I get that. I do it. A lot of people do. It's good for selling stuff, just stuff that's lying around the house and all that. But just keep in mind there's certain dangers that are involved with it. It's used for information warfare. It's used for propaganda. It's used for fraud at times. You'll get connections from people that are masquerading as people and they might not be who they say they are. So, again, if you're going to use Facebook or any other social media, use it with caution. Keep your list of contacts and your circle of friends small. Keep it manicured. Get rid of people that you're not talking to or people that you don't no longer talk to, that kind of thing. So use it with caution is the best advice that I would give you as a cybersecurity practitioner. And I remember in the old days, I used to talk, when I worked with the White House Communications Agency, I would have lunch with people from the CIA or the NSA or the FBI or whatever, and they would tell me about some of this stuff. Facebook is similar conceptually and operationally and structurally to some of the systems that the intelligence agencies use internally to build networks about, terrorists and that kind of stuff. And not that I'm equating it to Facebook with terrorism or anything like that, but it can be used by malicious actors as an intelligence gathering tool, and also to influence people, gather information about them, and then to alter perception. So so if you're going to use it, keep all of those things in mind. And next up this week comes this piece from TechCrunch.com. This USB kill cord can instantly wipe your laptop if snatched or stolen. And it goes on to say, journalists, activists, and human rights defenders face a constant battle to keep files safe from a growing set of digital threats and surveillance. But physical attacks can be challenging to defend against, whether an opportunist snatch and grab and thief or an oppressive government kicking down someone's door. So this isn't something that most people in developed countries or America or what we call the West, so to speak, are going to be thinking about. But, if you're in China or Russia or Iran or, God forbid, North Korea or one of these other godforsaken places, journalists and activists, these people are targets there. And not only do they steal their information, they kill them. But anyways, this project is the project is called Buzzkill. And Buzzkill launched a custom USB magnetic breakaway cable that acts as a deadband switch, and it locks your computer out. So if somebody grabs your computer or they come storming in there, you can knock this thing off of the computer and it's going to lock it out instantly. And many computers are going to be pretty much inaccessible even to law enforcement once they're locked. So they try to grab these things when they're unlocked if they can, provided that you've taken precautions to encrypt your hard drive and that kind of stuff. But this looks like something from a movie, frankly. It reminds me of from one of the Die Hard movies with the fire sale or something like that, where they capture the hacker. But if you're an activist and you're abroad, or you're a journalist and you're traveling, you could be an American journalist traveling abroad in some place that's dangerous, a war zone, or some place where they have severe sanctions or repressions on freedom of information, that kind of thing. And this is evidently, this thing is originally started out as a do-it-yourself project that you could build, and it was originally intended for Linux. But anyways, they did a crowdsourcing effort, and the cable is now available to buy starting at $59, which is pretty cheap. And there's an app that works on Mac OS, Windows, and Linux, and allows the person using the cable to easily arm and disable it with just the touch of the button. So it's kind of like a kill switch. Or if somebody steals your laptop off of you, if they smash and grab, they come and grab it off of you, it's going to lock itself. And then if you're a little bit more sophisticated of a user and you know how to use Linux and the command line, then you could also set this thing up to nuke the encryption keys. And once you do that, really the data on it, even to a state-backed actor like the NSA or the People's Liberation Army or whatever, failing next generation quantum computers anyway, they're not going to be able to obtain that data with this thing in place. And for all $59, that's a solid investment. And I think I'm going to go ahead and buy one of these things and then review it, because this is neat. And finally this week comes this piece from finance.yahoo.com. Mass spyware campaign targets thousands of ICS, that's Industrial Control System, computers around the world. And when I see headlines about ICS, the first thing it reminds me of is Stuxnet, right? That was a weaponized piece of malicious logic that was targeting specific industrial control systems. And by some estimates, that was $1 billion weapon, right? So not all these attacks on these industrial control systems are by state-backed actors that have $1 billion, but there's a lot of this going on. And the article goes on to say, from January to November 2021, Kaspersky experts uncovered a new piece of malware that has targeted more than 35,000 computers across 195 countries. Now, as far as Kaspersky goes, I don't recommend using their products because of the ties to Russia. And Russia is an odd duck because there's just not that much shoulder room between the state security organs and organized crime there. And there's a lot of shady stuff that goes on. On the other hand, the research is great. I love their white papers. So, don't throw them completely up on the shelf. Pay attention to what they say. Look for their research, but I don't recommend using their products on America. And in any ways, the United States government has forbidden the defense industrial base from using this stuff by recommendation of the NSA, and with good reason. But in any case, the research on this goes on to say from January 20th to November 10th, 2021, Kaspersky products blocked something called pseudo-manuscript on more than 35,000 computers in 195 countries. Now we're repeating that. But the attack vector here appears to be pirated ICS software, industrial control system software. So you could go on the dark web and then you could look for pirated software and try and find it and then download it and skirt the licensing fees. But it just goes on to show that you should be making sure that the software that you're deploying on your systems is coming from where you think it is. And it's not good enough just to run a virus scanner on it. You need to download it from the actual maker and then run a hash on it and make sure it's what you think it is and then install it. And even beyond then, you still need defense in depth because of these advanced supply chain poisoning attacks. Think of the more recent one on SolarWinds, right? They actually managed to get it and then poison SolarWinds itself. People downloaded it, they installed it on their system, it was trusted, it was signed, it had malicious logic in it anyway, and that's not the first time that that's happened. I remember that happening with the Apache web server software years ago, that they compromised the source code itself and downloaded it. So again, no matter what you do, you're going to have following these best practices and then defense in depth. And then even then, you could still have a bad outcome, which is why you need to have cybersecurity insurance and business insurance and these other things. More good research by Kaspersky Labs, though. I always read nearly everything that they publish, even though I won't use their products. And that concludes episode 8 of Security Snark. See you next week.